Greetings! I'm Adventure Argonaut. This is the Chrono Jotter. And I alt-tapped away so the picture disappeared for a moment because I'm checking that the streams are working. And how about Rumble? Kick and Twitch are fine. I think even Rumble is working right off the bat. Yes, I do think that is the case. Okay. So let's load the game. This one. And there's been another Madda. What was her name? Tama. Her head was twisted violently with some sort of wrench probably, and we are trying to solve the case. But in this game, in this place, if you solve the murder, the person who's been killed comes back to life, so it's a bit weird. So Ran rubbed the banks of hair dangling in front of her eyes, twisting them with her fingers into a rope. She stared at the tips of her bangs to concentrate as she sorted through the clues to the case in her mind. That's not right, is it? She let go of her hair, and waterlogged strands slowly drifted back apart. So what if someone died? It wasn't Miss Sakura after all. Why am I working so hard to solve the case for them? Is it just because I find Indo likable? If it were any of the others, would I be perfectly fine with ignoring the whole thing? Ran allowed her body to slide into the water and raised her head to look at the mist-shrouded ceiling. Or am I just doing this because I enjoy deductive process if it's the deductive process? My top priority is to retrieve Miss Sakura's memories so I can take her away from here. But the situation has now become much more complex than I'd imagined, given what I know about Koizumi-sensei. For example, what would happen if I tried to take Indo away from here? Would she just turn into a skeleton? If I took Koizumi-sensei out of here, would she age up instantly? Ah! Ran shouted as she buried her face into the water. What do I do, Miss Sakura? I can't figure it out. After Ran reached the limits of her ability to hold her breath, she lifted her face from the water, taking large mouthfuls of air as she wiped away the water on her face with her hand. Then she saw Asakura standing in the bathroom. Whoa, you scared me. I don't suppose I could join the bath with you. Well, you're already here. It's not like I can actually kick you out or anything. Ho ho ho, is she Santa Claus? My dastardly plan has worked. Asakura took a place under the shower head and began to wash herself. Ran slid backwards, pulling herself closer to the edge of the bath to put distance between herself and Asakura. Hey, Agent Double Hurts! Welcome back. I should say something to Asakura in a minute, but what? It'd be awkward for two people to take a bath together without either of them saying anything. I don't want to leave yet. I've only just soaked for a few minutes, but when it comes to topics that I can't talk to Asakura about, Ran suddenly realized that it was more or less impossible to avoid bringing up Tama when talking to Asakura, and likewise. Somehow every conversation she had with Tama always came back around to the topic of Asakura, intentionally or unintentionally. The relationship seems like it differs slightly from ordinary friendship. So, how'd you get together with Indo in the first place? Sakura couldn't help but laugh out loud as she washed some suds out of her hair. She answered, Wouldn't a normal person try to respect my feelings at a time like this? I forced myself to respect your feelings for like several whole minutes already. I think I've done my due diligence. That cracked her up for a good while again. That's one of the things I like about you. Asakura slid into the bath, letting her long hair settle over her chest. Ran felt like this side of Asakura was very different from the one that she usually projected. Asakura, she seems like she's softened up a lot, though there's still something weird about it. Tama and I are just acclimated to each other. Initially, it was because we were assigned to the same dorm and I wanted to have good relations with my roommate. But she was just way too proactive about it. And you found that annoying? Are you trying to trick me into saying something I shouldn't, Ibuki-san? What? No, of course not. I'll take your word for it then. I never thought that Tama was annoying. She's so precious after all, and she's always very considerate about my feelings, so we never had any problems. Asakura raised her hand and brushed her dangling bangs out of her eyes. Since I have such a strong relationship with Tama, nobody believes I'd do something so horrible to Tama. So the culprit's trying to play a level above us all and trying to frame me by doing something I'd never do. Hmm. Well, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe like Sakura is the killer, maybe? Even a less painful method would still work if they were trying to frame you, right? Ran hadn't expected Asakura to actively change the topic towards the case, so she immediately grew cautious. After all, to the others, Ran herself was also a potential suspect. Seriously, let's just skip all the she knew that I knew that she knew that I knew nonsense. Asakura nodded as she laughed. She apparently quite liked Ran's blunt way of speaking. You're far more interesting than Tama and myself, though, you know that. Makoto had smoothly changed the topic once again. What's so interesting about me? From your perspective, we must be a group of complete weirdos, attending classes despite the lack of teachers with a light pinch of murders on top of it all. Yeah, like I seriously don't even know if you're going to be able to take your colleague entrance exam at all. Yeah, sure, college entry exams. Ever since I got back my memories about Koizumi sensei, I've decided that it's not likely that any of the students here are the true mastermind behind all this. They're probably victims of the situation just like me. But I can't say that there is no mastermind either. I've encountered situations like this one in the past, but they usually turned out to be more natural phenomena than anything else with a total lack of self awareness. I don't understand how it's lack of self awareness, man. But this situation's particularly complicated. There are rules and conditions everywhere. It's hard to believe that this is a completely non-conscious anomaly. Wait, maybe the supposed complexity is just my subjective perception. Maybe this anomalous environment is just satisfying one simple criterion that leads to the present situation as it is now. Like, say, it took an existing complex structure and used that as a blueprint. Rand's experiences with the model of 10,000 flashes through her mind, giving her fresh inspiration. What is model of 10,000 flashes? Model of 10,000 humans? Okay. Wow, Joruna was right. You really do just suddenly stop talking randomly in the middle of conversations. So, what is this model of 10,000 humans? 10,000 means like all. in like old Chinese or something. The model of 10,000 humans, a complete upright human anatomical model. The left half of the model appears as the naked human form with intact skin, while the right half permits the internal organs to be directly viewed. The model's particular appearance depends on and changes based on the observer. No matter how many people simultaneously observe the model, they only perceive the model as being modeled after a being indistinguishable from their own body. Furthermore, the organs of the model will reflect in real time the statuses of the corresponding organs of the observer. Ugh, creepy. Examples of this include the beat of the heart, the movements of the eye, and any diseases of the internal organs. If the model is intentionally touched, the toucher will feel the same touch on the corresponding part of their body. The organs of the model can be removed so as to permit convenient observation of organs concealed behind other organs. Rani Boogie once brought a certain person, details who is unclear due to memory loss, before the model of 10,000 and used that person's hand to take a photo, allowing her to capture that person's model. She received great inspiration from this. Okay. It's really like an extended universe of weirdness. Uh, just thinking about stuff. Ran inscribed the idea she just had deeply into her mind. See, it's stuff like this that makes us feel like you're the weirdest one out of all of us. Me, I feel like I'm completely normal. No, she is really not just weird, like sick, sort of twisted, mentally not there, nor emotionally. Yeah, think about it. You suddenly appear in the school, can't explain where you came from, and then immediately acclimate to our killing game, while also displaying a startling degree of competence in logical deduction. What makes an outsider like you capable of adapting with ease to what should be an extremely strange environment for you? Perhaps you're able to remain so calm only because you know some things that none of the rest of us know. Ran hadn't expected that Asakura would suddenly press her on these things here. Ran didn't know the answers to some of Asakura's questions herself, but as far as the ones she could answer went, Ran didn't want to until she could confirm that the other students were victims of the situation just like her. I'm only staying here to get Miss Asakura's memories back. I'm pretty sure her memory loss has something to do with this school. That's the only reason why I'm forcing myself to accept the way you people live. If I spent all my time freaking out about everything and jumping at shadows, I wouldn't be able to help Miss Sakura. I don't think Anne's memory loss has anything to do with the school. She was like this when we first met her. It's far more likely that she lost her memories due to something that happened outside of the school. True, otherwise, there'd be no way to explain why she didn't get into contact with me immediately after she disappeared. Ran looked down at her blurry reflection in the water. So then, should I? That's what I'm curious about as well. Asakura reached out and put a hand on Ran's shoulder as she spoke, sending ripples through the water that pushed Ran's reflection away. There's no disputing your feelings for Anne at this point, but if your relationship was really as rock solid as you thought, then why did Anne leave you? Weren't the two of you supposed to be together forever after all? What happened? Ran's eyes widened. She suddenly realized that she had no idea when Anne had disappeared or the circumstances of how she had disappeared. Her brain only contained the fact that Anne Sakura was not at her side and that she was obsessed with finding her. The cause of all these events had somehow slipped from her memory. No, calm down. This isn't important. It's probably one of the memories I know I'm missing. I'm sure I'll remember it again once I leave. Being with Miss Sakura is the most important thing. Everything else is inconsequential. You're right, I don't remember. It's not important though. I'm sure that Miss Sakura will tell me why once she's got her memories back. Asakura pulled her hand away from Ran. She shifted her gaze away from Ran as well, returning to looking straight forward. You really do trust her. You treat Anne as your reason to continue living, don't you? I want to know how you accomplished that. What made it possible for you to make someone else into your reason to live? I have no interest in discussing Miss Sakura with others. Ran rose up and out of the bath. Hot water streamed out of her body into the bath, raising splashes that forced Asakura to squint her eyes. Plus, doesn't Indo deeply value as well? Maybe you should have this conversation with her, not me. After all of this is over. Her, huh? Ran looked down and saw Asakura wore a very peculiar expression, almost but not quite smiling as she stared at the misty surface of the water. She must still be recovering from the shock of Indo's death. Let's leave her alone for now. Well, I'm heading out now. Bye. Asakura didn't say a word in response and only nodded. Ran didn't think she wanted to be alone in a room with Asakura. She quickly left the bathroom and shut the door with great force. So is she a Jedi? Is she using the Force? Ran knocked on the door to Anne and Koizumi's room after the door opened and greeted her. Still wearing the uniform, so she hasn't showered yet. What is it, Ran? I'm getting ready to go to bed, Miss Sakura, so I came by to say good night to you. Okay, good night. And could you kiss me just before saying good night? Come on. Anne was growing used to Ran's neediness. At this point, she took a step forward and placed a hand on Ran's head. You're quite spoiled, aren't you, Ran? Trust me, I was so much more spoiled in the past. Anne brushed aside Ran's bangs and kissed her on the forehead. Good night, Ran. Good night. Sai was already in the top bunk. She stuck her head out upon the sound of the door opening to see an ecstatic Ran enter. It's called empathy. It's a weird magic trick some women are capable of. Are women really capable of empathy? Sounds like fake news to me. You sure look cheerful tonight. I say good night to Miss Sakura and she kissed me. Ran sat at the side of the bed, took off her footwear and outerwear, and then laid down in bed, hugging the blankets and pressing her whole body into a ball. Miss Sakura! Well, that's good. Looks like the two of you are growing closer and closer then. Ran released the blanket and stuck her head out of the bed frame. Since when did you care, Yoruno? Also, I have to say, you didn't go swimming this afternoon. Don't you go swimming every night? Hey, I always cared about you, haven't I? Ran remembered the barbecue and the way Sai had looked as she prepared food for herself in the kitchen for everybody else's sake. Yeah, I guess you do, thanks. Why are you being so sincere all of a sudden? Gross. You're the one who started it. No, you. Ran raised a leg and kicked the top bunk of the bed, causing Sai to laugh. Okay, that's enough horsing around. Let's go to bed. We still have to finish dealing with Indo's case tomorrow. Yeah. I'll take a nap for now and wake myself up later to perform a recall. Recalls are best when you're safe and comfortable in bed. Ran opened her eyes, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. She turned her phone on to see that it was 3 in the morning. She pulled out her notebook and flipped to a blank page. Alright, let's begin the recall. So is there gonna be one recall per each murder or something? There's lots of recalls this time. Let's go through them slowly. So special recall when Tama and Ran separated so that Tama could go find Asakura. While Ran was moving about on her own, when I brought up the jammed cabinet at the tea party after helping Koizumi apply medication. Yeah, the jammed cabinet. Maybe the murder weapon is in there? Prologue, the old schoolhouse chapter part 1. You can also conduct recalls of events from previous chapters as well by clicking those chapters. Through recall, you can try choosing options that were previously inaccessible due to insufficient stats, or venture to locations you weren't able to visit during exploration mode. Okay, so part 1. If the students weren't lying, then Tama was never seen again after she and Ran split up. So if Ran chose to go with Tama at this juncture in time, surely she'd be able to acquire more clues. Yeah, sure. Let's check this out. I guess we can do more, or are we gonna do we have to donate blood to the notebook every time? This is a pretty good recall point. I can follow alongside the victim and carefully observe the surroundings. Hopefully I'll pick up on something. You go on ahead. Go on ahead if you're worried. I'll keep looking around on my own. Thank you, my apologies, Ibuki-san. I'll be off. Actually, wait, Indo. I changed my mind. I'm kind of curious about the generator room, so I guess I wouldn't mind seeing why the power went out. Okay, I'll send Asakura-san a text so she knows we'll be going to find her. Tama focused intently on the screen of the phone, holding it with her left hand and clumsily tapping the numpad with her right. Ran had to help steer Tama because she was so focused on the phone that she wasn't paying attention to where she was stepping. She really wants to see Asakura, huh? And go, Tama muttered the words she was trying to type under her breath as she tapped them in one by one. Her input speed was pathetically slow and her gait was unsteady. Ran couldn't help but grip her shoulders tightly so that she didn't fall. Indo's shoulders are so tiny and the expressions she makes and the way she moves are both so precious. At that moment, both Ran inside and outside the recall were thinking the exact same thoughts. Still not as precious as the photos of Miss Sakura from before, though. If those photos of her couldn't move, I bet they'd be even more adorable than Indo. In the end, it took until two of them exited the school building for Tama to finish sending her text. Ran surreptitiously retracted her hands from Tama's shoulders. Okay, I'll take you to the generator room now, Ibuki-san. She didn't notice my hands at all, did she? There's a bit of distance from here to the power room. It'd be nice to get in a conversation with Indo on the way. Is that something that the version of me in the recall would have decided to do? You know, Indo, I feel like Asakura is one of the most capable people at this school when it comes to taking care of herself. You're suggesting that I'm needlessly concerned about her, Ibuki-san. Oh, conversation initiated. Ran nodded. I just felt like I should do something for her. I want to serve her faithfully, just like how I took care of the young mistress's needs before. She really just used the word serve, huh? Just which family did Indo serve under back then, anyways? The young mistress you're talking about, what kind of person was she? I guess it's like Ojo-sama. The young mistress, as a person, she was like an ice cube. You mean she was cold and frigid to others? A bit, but it's more like ice cubes feel very cold and hard to touch, but actually they're very unstable, you know. At any point, they might melt and evaporate and disappear forever. Sounds like a run, actually. That was the impression the young lady gave off to me. After the earthquake, we relied on each other to survive. If I weren't around, the young lady would surely have evaporated. I see. I didn't want to hear a goddamn flowery metaphor. I wanted specifics, first name, last name. But what's interesting is that Indo seems to think that Asakura is the same kind of person, someone who would evaporate if she were separated from Indo. I just don't get it. By the time the conversation had ended, the two of them were almost at the generator room. Ran hadn't noticed anything out of the ordinary on the way, though. Did the culprit not ambush Indo on the way to the power room then? Then again, in the recalls, I'm usually not particularly focusing hard on the environment and the surroundings, so I can't be sure that I didn't just miss something either. Tama and Ran approached the generator room door. The surrounding area was silent. Sure is quiet. I thought the generator room would be louder. Perhaps it hasn't been fully repaired yet. Tama reached out to turn the handle, but only clunking sounds came from the door's lock. The door's locked. Asakura-san doesn't seem to be around. Well, since there's no sound, she probably hasn't finished fixing it yet. I bet she's gone to get some more tools or something. Why don't we go look elsewhere? I like to wait here for Asakura-san. Since the repairs aren't done, she'll surely come back eventually. She really wants to see Asakura, huh? Just like she said. Indo really did just wait here indefinitely for her. Alright, I'm heading out then. My decision to travel with Indo might have disrupted the killer's plan, preventing anything from happening on the way here. I'm just thinking, like, couldn't she, like, could she take the same recall point again and, just hide in the bushes and watch Tama? That's how she should be able to spot the killer if she, attacks her here or something. Like, of course, that would be a bit boring story-wise, but it would make sense. It's the simple way of catching the killer if you have time travel powers, especially. But it's equally possible that Indo was only killed after this point in the real timeline as well. In any case, it looks like this is all that this recall point is giving me. Let's see what clues the other points have for me. Okay. According to the alibis of the girls that Ran considers most suspicious, namely Sai and Asakura, the power room is an extremely critical location. Furthermore, Tama apparently headed here immediately after leaving Ran. Perhaps engaging in a recollection of this location at an even earlier point would allow Ran to capture a clue of some kind. Fine, maybe just do this in order. So while Ron was moving about on her own. At the time, I went to find Miss Sakura directly after Indo left. This time, let's take the initiative and go right to the generator room. As Ran strolled in the courtyard, she took out her phone and sent Asakura a message, asking her where the generator room was located. Oh, Ibuki! Oh, I accidentally right-clicked, not left-click, okay. Ran raised her head and saw that Sai was waving at her from not too far away. Next to Sai stood Asakura. How convenient, I was just about to send you a text asking where the power room was. Ran jogged up to two of them. We were heading there as well just now, let's head over together. Since you got Ibuki now, you probably don't need me anymore. If so, I'm gonna go home and sleep. I'm a bit tired after swimming. I've gotta study for tomorrow's classes. Oh, so even you know that swimming can tire you out, huh? No need to worry about the next day's classes though. Those are getting cancelled no matter what. So I headed off to the dormitory as soon as she was done speaking, while Ran followed Asakura towards the generator room. Say, Asakura, did you get the text from Indo? She said she was looking for you. Is that so? Asakura checked the pockets of her dress but didn't find her phone. I don't seem to have my phone on me. I must have dropped it in the electrical room. So you didn't recruit Yoruna by using a phone? Come on, everyone knows she's always at the swimming pool. That's fair, a phone call would just be wasted on her. Asakura was a bit taller than Ran, and she walked very quickly. Ran was forced to jog a little just to keep up with her. Is she that anxious to see Indo? The two of them sure are close. When the two of them got close to the power room's door, though, Asakura slowed down. Her gaze focused on the door of the generator room. After lingering there for a few seconds, she started to look around. Looks like Indo hasn't shown up yet. She'd be here waiting for me if she had. It's as she says. Befitting the meaning of her name, so what do we do? Go find her? What was the meaning of her name? Tama Indo? I don't know the kanji. Let's fix the power first. The rest of our classmates are still waiting on the power to come back after all. Asakura took out the keys and unlocked the door to the generator room. Oh, cover. The arc-shaped lid of the generator laid on the ground. A thick coating of dust had built up on its sides. It looks really heavy. Yeah, when I took it off, I just let it slam right onto the floor. It was like someone had set off a smoke bomb in that generator room. That's why I needed someone to help me lift it. Let's hurry and get it back up there. But if it's still, maybe I'm just dumb, but like if she needed somebody to lift it, she got it off by herself and it's still on the floor. Like where did she lift it with somebody else? The lid of the generator had been removed and set to the side. Ran stuck her head out to get a good look for the internals of the generator, but she had no understanding of generators and couldn't tell what the problem was. This model of generator looks pretty old. Doesn't it get loud when it's running? Of course, at the start, when I was trying to figure out where the problem was, I had to investigate it while it was still operating. It practically made my ears explode. I don't really get it, but it sounds pretty dangerous. Oh, discover an abnormality. How many points do I have? Okay. I have 6, so I'd have to use 2 points. I'm just... Yeah, I do want to see the abnormality, but I don't want to waste 2 points. But it's sort of good to know that, you will need investigation 8 for some challenges. I can come back later, like the game tutorial said just earlier, that if I raise my investigation higher, then I can come back here, I guess. So put the lid back on. The repairs are finished already, though. All that was needed was parts change. All you have to do now is help me put the lid back on. Ran and Asakura each took one side of the lid and lifted it up. It's so heavy, no wonder Yoruno ran for it. My fingers are going to hurt once I've left this recall point. Okay, that was all. Okay, can't I go to the... Because there was the other room. Let's see if I can do it again. Because I want to check if I can go to the small room in this recall point. Can I skip? Yeah, because I think it's because I've experienced... Yeah, inner room. Yeah, there's this. I didn't want to leave the recall yet. Asakura, what's this room for? Oh, the back room, mostly for spare parts and electrical cables. I haven't locked it yet. Are you interested in taking a look? Ran pushed the door open. The contents of the room were exactly as Asakura had described, just a bunch of steel shelves with spare parts. There was a tarp on the ground with a bulge under it. Ran guessed that it was probably a coil of electrical cables under there. I see. Well, there's not much here then. Okay. When I brought up the jammed cabinet at the tea party, Sai had expressed some disappointment when she couldn't open the cabinet of the tea party. She'd wanted to try some of the black tea stored there. She did suggest, though, that she could probably fix the cabinet if she had access to the tool room. Ran, who entered the tool room herself last night, might be able to help her with that. Okay, let's see. What the hell is the point of this recall point? Whatever, let's give it a shot. Come on. The game gives me the recall point. Of course, I'm gonna try it out. I don't know, it gave me some doubts over the I don't know, functionality of the game, so now I'm gonna save. So I repeatedly pulled the cabinet door, causing a series of clunks. What is it? Of all the times for the door to jam, what a pain, and on the one day someone wants some black tea too. Sorry, mijo. Looks like the door to the black tea cabinet is stuck. Do you want something else? I guess I'll have some green tea instead then. The cabinet's broken? Sai craned her neck and checked the cabinet's hinges. It's not a big problem. I'll come back with a screwdriver and fix it real quick later. Oh, I'll go get the screwdriver then. I know where the tool storage room is. Stool storage room. Why am I... Oh, I get it. This way I can visit the tool room even earlier than usual. Maybe I'll run into the culprit trying to sneak the murder weapon out, or some other clue, I guess. Since the tool rooms are always locked, I think this must be a recall point that I only get after I pick the room's lock. Interesting. Is it this sort of meta, like the way she's saying, like, you know, she gets an understanding of the game mechanics, or what? Forget it, the tool room's locked, you couldn't open it if you went. Ran stood up resolutely anyways. Maybe she forgot to lock it, it won't hurt to check. You sure are being weirdly helpful tonight. I just can't bear to see you be the only one here who doesn't have anything to drink. So I smiled. She couldn't tell that Ran was just trying to do something nice for her. She could tell that Ran was just trying to do something nice, but she's really not. So who do you think done it? Good question. I guess, like, my first suspect was Asakura, you know, the roommate slash girlfriend of the victim, but it's still a bit too obvious, maybe. So maybe it is Sakura. Thanks, Ibuki. Like, I guess she's my prime suspect, but I guess still need more evidence. And of course, because the victim was tied up pretty high on the bed, not bed, the tree when she was killed. So at least, like, when investigating, the protagonist said that it had to be a tall person, and Sakura is not tall, but hey, maybe she had some, you know, like a ladder or something to help her or some other thing. So I don't know. I'm going with we did it ourselves again. Always a sure bet. You mean like a suicide, or you mean the protagonist did it without telling the player, or what? I don't know what you're talking about. She headed off before the conversation could get more awkward for her. As usual, Ran had no idea how to respond to the goodwill of any human being that wasn't Ann Sakura. Okay, I do like the, you know, direct way the game is saying that, you know, Ran is not all there. The protagonist, we are not dead, right? No. Yeah, we are here, we are not dead. Well, you know, maybe we are all dead. We might be in hell or limbo or something, but that's another question, I guess. God, I can't handle this. Please hurry up and go. It's embarrassing just to watch. Ran quickly reached the storage room and turned the handle experimentally. Unsurprisingly, the door was locked. She got out the lockpick she'd made from the steel wool before, stuck it to the lock, and fiddled around a few times to unlock the door. Pushing open the door, Ran fumbled in her pocket, trying to get her phone out for some illumination. The moment she touched her phone, red cracks filled her field of vision. Are we getting murdered? Afterwards, there was but a momentary flash of pain. Ran Ibuki fell to the floor, her eyes rolling up in their sockets, blood leaking from her nostrils from the corners of her mouth. A horrifying dent had appeared in the back of her head, as though the whole segment of her cranium had been stripped away. Ran's lips trembled, but her brain itself had already been crushed, so she couldn't even scream anymore. She could see the feet of her attacker in her field of vision, but Ran no longer had the ability to distinguish just who it was. Darkness descended and took away Ran Ibuki's consciousness for good. We don't really know anything about that other girl's shoes, except that, you know, Tama, the victim, she had, like, you know, those boots. And the feet look quite small, but hey, they're teenage girls. I guess all of them have probably small feet. Ran Ibuki was flung out of the recall like a pilot forced to perform an emergency ejection. She returned to reality and immediately bit down hard on the bed sheets, lest she open her mouth and scream out loud. So much for my theory. Yeah, unless she committed suicide to confuse the observer. But yeah, I guess that means there's something in the cabinet that's stuck, the murder weapon or something, and the murderer is protecting it. So, like when we got attacked, my feeling was like, wait, is it Yoruno? But like, if she was the killer, would she really be drawing attention to the fact that the cabinet is stuck? So it's probably not her. So yeah, maybe it is Sakura then. The muscles of her body were tense almost to the point of tearing. She clutched her notebook with both arms, dug her fingernails into the palms of her hands, and kicked uncontrollably at the mattress. Loosening her mouth, she pried the notebook open and immediately bit into it and swallowed a random page. It alleviated the psychological pressure of dying in a recall, but the physical pain continued to torment her. Ran clasped her legs tight, rubbing them against each other as unseemly grunting sounds came from her throat. Sweat soaked her nightclothes and bedsheets, and yet her heartbeat continued to accelerate. She wished she could just pluck her own head off, so long as the pain would go with it. A random page is deleting the evidence. Yeah, I guess if it's not an empty page, but yeah, for some reason she eats a page from the book when she's going crazy or something. Ibuki, are you alright? Ran was afraid to open her voice and answer. She was afraid the scream she'd been holding would come bursting out if she loosened her grasp. She just waved her hands in an irregular pattern, trying to let Sai know through a gesture that she didn't need to worry about Ran. Perched atop the upper bunk, Sai stared down at the Ran from its edge. She remained silent for a while before speaking. Should I go get Sakura? Ran opened her eyes wide, letting the tears roll out and down her face. She finally opened her mouth and tried to speak. The attempt proved unsuccessful. She opened and closed her mouth several times before finally managing to get a paltry few words out. No need, it's fine. Just say it was a nightmare or something. Well, okay then. So I could tell that Ran would rather others not know about her current state, so she abandoned this line of inquiry. If you feel so unwell that you don't think you can handle it, then call me, okay? Even if I can't help you directly, I can still get Sakura over here for you or something. Ran shrunk her neck inwards, closed her eyes tightly, and forced herself to nod. The notebook page she'd consumed was taking effect at least. She could feel her brain slowly recovering from the concave shape it had been forced to assume. So she's still like physically still also feeling the effects of the death in the recall point. I thought it would be just like psychological or some spiritual stuff, but I guess it's also physically somehow. I don't know. She felt her faculties of reason gain control over her body once more and placed her hand on the cover of the notebook once again. Next time, please prepare a less stimulating recall for me, maybe? Ran flipped over and stared at the upper bunk, even though she was still panting with sweat-soaked bangs stuck to her forehead. At least she was finally able to think normally again. So, what information can I get from this ambush? The person who attacked me was either the culprit or working with the culprit. No doubt about that. Did I run into her as she just happened to come back to return the murder weapon? Or perhaps the culprit ran into me just after she picked up the murder weapon and was afraid I'd discover something amiss, and so she preemptively decided to silence me. It's hard to determine who it was that attacked me, anyways. Even the students at the tea party could have found some excuse to leave their seat and follow me once they'd heard that I was visiting the tool storage. Storage. From the angle of the impact, the attack came from behind and above, at a downward angle. But it's not like that's useful information. Even Toyama could hit me from that direction, so long as she was wielding something long enough. Yeah. Ran rolled over and sighed. So what? I died for nothing this time? Maybe if I could do that recall point another time, I'd learn something else, but I'd honestly really rather not. Well, at least let's make a note of the time that I got attacked. Okay, then the last one, after helping Koizumi apply medication. Now carrying a complete set of memories with regards to Koizumi, Ran has a second thought when it comes time to leave the infirmary, and ultimately decides to stay behind and have a proper conversation with her teacher from the old days. Hmm. I don't know whether you prepared this recall for me to comfort me or to torment me. With the way everything ultimately turned out, what's the point of having a conversation with Koizumi sensei again? But I really do want to talk with her again, even if just in the recalls. Indo, could you give me a hand? Could you give me and Koizumi a bit of privacy? Koizumi, hearing those words, raised her head to look up at Ran. Her mouth opened slightly as if she was looking forward to something. Because her injury was connected to me, so I'd like to chat with Koizumi a little more. Very well, then I'll go and find Asakura and get killed horribly. Tama agreed quickly and, after giving a bow, left the infirmary. Ibuki-san, what did you want to say to me? Koizumi put her feet on the floor as she fidgeted nervously with her hair. Ran sat down next to her, looking down at the floor. She counted the number of tiles on the floor, unwilling to be the first to speak. Ibuki-san, what's wrong? Koizumi, what if you ultimately wound up becoming a teacher anyways? How would you feel about that? Koizumi lowered her hand and turned her gaze away from Ran. So Ibuki-san doesn't think I'm strong enough to refuse my parents' demands of me either then? No. Ran reached out in a panic and grabbed Koizumi by the shoulder, but Koizumi still refused to look at her. I just meant, what if I just wanted to know how you felt about teaching itself? I don't really feel anything about it. Ibuki-san, you should try and understand the reason why I don't want to teach has nothing to do with the occupation itself. I know, but I mean, I'm sure you'd make a wonderful teacher. Ran tried to smile as she spoke. To her, Hinata Koizumi was, after all, certainly an incomparable teacher. Even if that were the case, it would still have been because I was forced to become a wonderful teacher, right? Ran shook her head furiously. She didn't want the time that she'd spent with Koizumi sensei before to have been the result of coercion. Not to mention, there's no way I'd make a good teacher or anything. All I know how to do is force myself to accept the things I dislike and to do my job. That's it. But I think, Koizumi, you're both gentle and beautiful. I know that any student would appreciate a teacher like that. Koizumi shook her head. The fingers of her hands had knotted themselves together into a clump. I don't know, I don't really like kids. There's no way I could ever see myself becoming a role model either. Am I supposed to teach all my students to be as gloomy as I am? Koizumi raised her hands and grasped Ran's wrist, even more evident than the few tears flowing from her eyes was the disappointment Ran could see in them. Ibuki-san, to me, accepting my parents' requests isn't as simple as a matter of being forced to choose an occupation. This is an opportunity for me to learn to refuse my parents and to truly live the way I'd like to live. Why are you trying to make me accept it after all? If I fail this time, I'm sure that I'll find myself convincing myself to just accept things as they are sooner or later, like a frog that's accepted the warming water of the cooking pot. But Koizumi, one of these days my parents will tell me to marry some stranger and tell me that things will work out after you get to know each other a bit, and the water will heat just a little bit more. And on that day, I'll truly lose the chance to change my life forever, Ibuki-san. I'm not strong enough that I can continue to struggle and fight even after I've already been trapped in the mire's grasp. Koizumi held Ran's wrist tightly and smiled through the tears on her face. I have to be able to grasp onto something and to escape this mire that I've found myself in, before that day comes. So please speak no further on this. But the truth that Ran had lived through told her that in the end Hinata Koizumi had still failed. Her life had sunken into the grasping mire and the warm water, just as Koizumi had said it would. Ran couldn't help her and hadn't thought to do anything for her and had only used self-deceiving guilt to try and assuage those memories. And now this young Koizumi, full of possibility and hope, appearing before her, only reinforced the fact that her future was already unchangeable and carved in stone. Well, I don't think so. If there's all sorts of time travel stuff possible, then maybe she can change her future. There's no need to worry, though, Ibuki-san. Koizumi let go, wiped away her tears as she smiled. As I said yesterday, after having a conversation with you, I'm full of confidence. I'm sure I'll be able to explain to my parents that I'm not willing to become a teacher. I'll definitely be able to say it properly this time. Ran had already heard those words yesterday. She did her best to nod. I'm sure you can, yeah. Don't you think that this is too cruel of a recall, always making me looking at situations that could have gone differently without actually letting me touch the timeline itself? I don't want to look at this anymore. I only want to observe those recalls which have possibility of making a difference for the present situation, please. Okay, so I guess that's all of them. What is investigative recall? Uh-huh. Yeah, so this is stuff I've done. Uh, let's see if there's something new we can do. I don't think there is. But yeah, we're looking at the original scene of the crime. Yeah, I've investigated all of these. Okay. Exploration recall. Uh, After hearing Miho's answers in the infirmary's sick bed, Ran realized that she would most likely not be able to leave Anne anytime soon. Thus, under her love's recommendation, she began investigating the entire school and sought to deepen her understanding with the other students and seeking the truth behind Anne Sakura's memory loss. Uh, Tama led Ran on a tour around the school. I don't know. Let's see if there's something Yeah, because we've done this. Right. I think we also did this because there's two of these. Okay, let's see. I don't think we did this one. Didn't Yoruno mention that the lock on the dressing room door was broken? Let's check that out this time. Tama said she wanted to take Ran to see the changing room standing opposite the old shower room, so the two of them headed to the pool. You still haven't visited them, right, Ibuki-san? If you ever want to go swimming, you can go change there. Not only have I visited them through recall, I absolutely never want to go swimming ever again. After reaching the pool, they discovered that Sai was, for once, not at the swimming pool. Yoruno's not here, huh? How rare of her. Even Yoruno-san has to take a break occasionally, plus we just finished eating after all. Is that so? I can't imagine her choosing to take a break when it comes to swimming. Well, I don't think you are supposed to go swimming right after eating, isn't it? Bad idea. Tama took Ran to the new changing rooms as planned, but found that she couldn't open the door. What's the matter? I can't get it open. Let me see. Ran reached out and turned the handle a few times. It felt like it was stuck. She was quite familiar with the sensation. The door's not locked, it's just stuck. Probably the locking cylinders gotten jammed. Wow, Ibuki-san, how'd you know? That's incredible. Just have some experience is all. So do we call Asakura to fix this? Looks like it'll be a busy day for Asakura-san today. Ran and Tama returned to the pool side. Dark clouds blocked out the sun, making visibility somewhat poor. Still, it's a bit strange though. Feels like ever since my arrival, Yoruno's always taken every opportunity possible to spend time in the swimming pool. Could it be that she's the victim this round and she's already been killed and her body hidden? Tama sounded quite nervous. Ran could tell that she was just worried for Sai's safety though. Possible, but since it's Yoruno, for all we know she'll come floating to the surface of the pool anytime now, belly side up, like a fish. Ran couldn't help laughing. If Yoruno-san heard you say that, she'd be quite cross, I'm sure. Not like she can hear us anyways. Suddenly a hand darted out from the water, seized Ran by the ankle. Horror movie. What the hell? Ran fell over to the floor as the hand retracted back into the water. Shortly after, Sai rose from the water, hair disheveled. Well. I wasn't expecting this kind of entertainment when I decided to go for a bit of dive. Sai brushed her bangs aside and grinned at Ran's consternation. Maybe I should pull you into the water and make you come floating to the surface of the pool, belly side up like dead fish now, eh? Are you okay, Ibuki-san? Even Tama couldn't help but laugh as she reached a hand out to help Ran up. Every time I come to the pool, you just have to have some kind of surprise for me, huh? Ran patted herself off and continued. By the way, the changing room's door seems to be stuck. Oh, I know, I changed on the other side this time. I'll call Asakura to check it out later. With that, Sai kicked off the side of the pool and went back to swimming. Done letting you mess around with me now. You were clearly the one messing around with me. Tama laughed cheerfully, watching from the sidelines. It seemed like she'd enjoyed the sight of Ran and Sai bickering with each other. Well, let's go then, Ibuki-san. Let's get out of here and then never come back to the swimming pool ever again. I'm just thinking about the door that's stuck. Like, it's a bit sus that both the swimming pool changing room door and then the door at the cabinet in the kitchen, that they both get stuck at the same time. Like, maybe they have something to do with the murder. Like, the killer has hidden some stuff there, so we should try to get into the room where with the door was stuck. Like, peek through the window or something. Maybe we'll see some sort of fancy torture device inside or something like that. As Ran followed Tom out, she thought to herself about Thomas' predictions. It's true, there really hasn't been a body discovered yet. Okay, well, we have time and this isn't investigated yet. Ran followed Tama to the other side of the schoolhouse. She remembered that this was also where the infirmary was located. And right here is the infirmary where you fell asleep before, Ibuki-san. Tama had repeated what Ran was thinking in her heart. Do you use the infirmary often? Yeah, we've had these conversations before. Yeah, I think because there are couple of different options here. But I can't skip everything. So do you all have excellent health and leave Take with nothing to do all day? We very rarely use this place indeed. If it's a small matter like a cold or a stomachache, we can usually solve those problems with just the first aid kits in the dorms. And are there first aid kits in the dorms? Yeah, there's first aid kits in the dorms, huh? I didn't notice any in the rooms. Maybe they're somewhere in the kitchen or something. When the two of them passed by the entrance to the infirmary, Ran heard a sound coming from within. Someone's there? She reached out and knocked on the door, and an answer quickly came in response. Ran pulled open the door and entered the infirmary. Ibuki-san, Inter-san, hello! Hello, Koizumi-san. Koizumi, are you okay? Does your foot still hurt? Koizumi stared with wide eyes. She'd apparently thought that she'd managed to hide it from Ran. No, it's nothing. Koizumi sat at the side of the bed, her right foot bereft of its usual stocking, holding a bottle of medicine in her hand. She used her unoccupied hand to block her foot and seemed embarrassed that Ran was seeing her in her current state, even though the two of them had already taken a bath together. Take-san told me to apply this medicine and go get some rest. Is the injury serious? Why didn't you ask Miho to help you apply it? Well, it's not that serious, so I thought I wouldn't trouble Take-san. Yeah, I guess try this. No, this one we done. No, this one. Yeah, we did this urge Koizumi tell the truth, so Tama seems to have something to say. I feel like Koizumi sensei is pushing herself, but I don't know if it'd be any use even if I were to say anything. Ran looked down and saw that Tama was staring at Koizumi's foot with obvious concern. Right, let's get Indo to help bring the issue up for me. Indo, do you have something to say? Me, Tama hesitated before she seemed to make up her mind in some way or another and took a knee in front of Koizumi. Let me check it for you, Koizumi-san. You might have trouble applying the medicine evenly if you're trying to do it yourself. You've got to take injuries seriously and take care of them properly, otherwise their condition will only worsen. Koizumi seemed very embarrassed but nodded anyways and handed the bottle of medicine to Tama. Tama raised Koizumi's ankle, allowing Ran to see the injury properly. It's seriously swollen and inflamed. Tama nodded up and began applying the poultice to Koizumi's wound with intense concentration. The word poultice reminds me of Warhammer fantasy roleplay because you. No, I think there were some healing potions, but they're really expensive. So, like when you're a beginning character, you use poultice made of cow shit or something to heal yourself. It may hurt just a little bit. Please bear it. Koizumi covered her mouth with her hands. Her eyes were set into a squint from the pain. Looks like it hurts way more than just a little bit. Ibuki-san, could you grab the bandages for me? It's best to wrap up after applying medicine. Oh, sure. Ran remembered that she'd seen a bunch of bandages in a glass cabinet back when she'd been lying on the same bed. She quickly went and got a roll. Is this type good? Yes, thank you. Nama took the bandages and wrapped up the swollen part of Koizumi's foot, even so it left an obvious bulge under the wrappings. You're pretty good at this, Tama. I've done this sort of thing many times before, after all. The young mistress got herself hurt quite frequently. Tama smiled and then got up and helped Koizumi lie down again. Koizumi-san, please rest here for a while and try not to go anywhere until the medicine takes effect. I understand. Thank you, Indo-san and Ibuki-san. I didn't even do anything though. Didn't I? Just like before, Koizumi-sensei. Well, we won't disturb your rest then. Let's go, Indo. Okay, Koizumi-san, please definitely make sure your feet have stopped hurting before going anywhere. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Ran helped Koizumi close the curtain on the sick bed and left the infirmary with Tama. Okay, fine. Let's try to go back. End recall. Yeah. I think we've done quite a lot of recalling already. Well, yeah. I guess like investigating Tama's corpse in the gym, because I think there was also some sort of check here. So can we do something differently? Okay. No, I can't skip through the whole thing. Yeah, there was some sort of operation or some. Yeah, I think yeah, there was the tongue inside her mouth or something. I've done this part, so let's see if there was like some challenge or option to do something like that. Yeah. Can we get some new material? Something we haven't seen yet. Okay, nope. Cheek, corpse. See if we can we make the text faster? Okay. Like I want to make sure that there isn't anything new here in this part, because I think usually the The fast forward should only work when it's like, you've seen the stuff already, right? I think that's how it's supposed to work. Oh, okay, so that there we could use it. I'm a bit confused. No, we can't use it. Maybe there's like some comments that are slightly different or something. I think this. Uh, yeah, I guess check this out. Though the horrifying condition of Thomas' body left Ron greatly unsettled, it gave Ron an opportunity to investigate the school together with Anne, which was enough to settle any discomfortable feelings that Ron may have had. Yeah, is there any other options we didn't do last time? Maybe the tool room, because we were killed there last time. So Ran pushed open the door to the tool storage room. This time the door hadn't been locked. She supposed that someone must have borrowed the key from Asakura. As though these things, she entered the tool room and turned on the lights, didn't find a large pipe wrench they'd mentioned. Presumably the culprit hid it somewhere after using it. If they ran into somebody on the way while returning it, that would have been an awkward conversation. If the culprit really did encounter someone, maybe she just killed the witness. So yeah, because we were killed here trying to investigate it at a different point in time. So she's saying it. Is that like a subtle hint that she is the culprit? Okay. Well, it says they're investigated, so maybe there is no reason. Let's see if I can like skip. I don't know why doesn't it always work. The skip. Is there like some slight alteration now that we are here and at a different time? But yeah, there's the tree with the markings that somebody was killed there. Well, Tama was killed there. Yeah, so supposedly it has to be a tall person who killed her, but I don't know. Okay, I guess maybe we can just go back to normalcy. Like, continue in the normal timeline, I mean. Wait, this one? Yeah, let's just continue. Part 1, end recall. Ran closed the notebook and ended the recall. Feels like I picked up on many more clues. Tomorrow I'll sort through these clues with Miss Sakura and see if we can get to the bottom of this incident. Koizumi-sensei, if I can take Miss Sakura out of here, I will come visit you. I hope that when we see you, we'll find you living happily. Ran once again reassembled Anne's face in her mind to stabilize her senses after performing recall. It went very smoothly, so smoothly that the moment she placed the final puzzle piece in place, the turbulence in her mind calmed as well. Ran sank into deep sleep. I opened my eyes and perched on the side of the bed. Today was colder than all the previous days. I hoped Run Ibuki wouldn't catch a cold. She just finished the recall. She's very tired. She needs to rest. You should go. It didn't speak. Its pallid head, like organ, simply pulsed at me at an inconsistent frequency. The sound of revolving stellar bodies erupted with even greater force than last time. Hovering stars glimmered with faint light within the spherical masses that made up much of its lower body. I suppose that was where the sound was coming from. I'm pretty sure I know what it was that you did, but I don't really know why. Protection. Protection. Oh, sure, protection. I've seen plenty of entities like you who've described their actions towards Ran as protection, while secretly harboring sinister intent. To match her expectations, I have utilized everything at my disposal to comfort her inner heart. I have woven suffering. Okay, so suffering comforts her? You're just like all the other things that have appeared to interfere with her before. You just want to satisfy your own desire for her. Protection, companionship, whatever, those things are all excuses. Ran only needs one abnormality at her side, and that abnormality is me. So, yeah, maybe this alternative personality in Ran's body is the actual personality of Sakura or something. That's my guess, anyways. The sound of exploding galaxies rose in intensity, and its head crept closer towards Ran's. The beloved child of the mother of humanity is irreplaceable. The claws of desire eternally creep closer to her, including yours as well. Raising my hand, I seized it by its irregular head and squeezed tight. The irregular pulsation of its head ceased, but the sound of the stars grew even wilder. I was certain that sound was its heartbeat. In my heart, the irreplaceability of Ran Ibuki is different from what you all mean by irreplaceable. I opened my hand and it immediately pulled back to some distance between me and it. But it didn't seem to want to get too far away from Ran Ibuki entirely, and it slowly approached once more. It was obviously scared of what I'd just done, but what I feel is completely irrelevant to you. Hurry and leave. Ran needs rest. The sound of the stars quieted and slowly shuffled its body, though it didn't look like it was trying to leave the room. You love her. I just want to be by her side and protect her, that's all. Just like a weapon that a mortal human might use for self-defense, Ran Ibuki could utilize me to protect herself as well. It was just that I continued with this duty even while she was asleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the notebooks, lightly caressing the words that Ran had written down herself. There were far too many holes in the notebook. I suppose that this was an inexplicably related to Ran's memory loss, but the greater part of the responsibility was on me. I knew what it was that Ran had forgotten, and the empty pages of the notebook would once have held information that would have been very painful to her. If she could forget all these things, be like everyone else, forget everything after the passage of the great rains, and no longer be treated as the beloved child of the mother of humanity. Passage of the great rains. Is it like there's been another biblical level flood and most of humanity has been wiped out or something? I don't know, but something like that. You can sense the outside world, can you not? Does the rain yet continue to fall? Yeah, I guess it's something like that. End of the world with rain and flood. The reign of the mother has yet to abate, and shall not until her cherished wish shatters. It's good that the reign has yet to end. This way the world can continue to operate peacefully. So the reign is good. Or what's gonna happen? Are there like demons from hell gonna pour all there or something? I closed the notebook and put it back where it was originally. Ran thought to get herself some sleep now. Leave quickly and don't come back. Every time I borrow her body, it puts heavy mental stress on Ran. I don't want her to have to eat more paper. If she ate any more, my residual personality would diminish even further. Hmm? But even if that happened, eventually I'd wind up with the same personality as Ran Ibuki, and that wasn't so bad. The coil, the thing coiled up its body and retreated towards darkness at the door. Once it had left the room completely, with even the sound of the revolving stars fading in the distance, the door to the room closed on its own. I laid back down into the bed sheets and hugged her shoulders. Good night, Rannibuki. Yeah, like, is it? I wonder if those are random, like, when it's loading and shows the picture of some girl, or is it like, hinting that, yeah, because it was Anne who is in our head. Not sure. Every time Ron saw a shaved cancer patient lying in a sick bed on TV, she'd always imagine the kind of pain they must have been enduring. Could an internal illness buried deep within the body bring greater torment than an externally apparent injury? Sure. On mornings like that, this Ran definitely knew the answer to that question. What the hell? It was just a single recall. Why's my head hurt so damn much? I mean, sure, I died and all that, but that should have mostly been mitigated by the paper I ate. I don't know that the rules and the logic are so weird sometimes in this. Ran lay in bed and groaned quietly. Each of her exhalations forced air between the teeth of her tightly clenched jaws, releasing hissing sounds. Is she a snake? You're still asleep in. Still sleeping in. Aren't you gonna get up? Sai had just returned to the dorm with a bagged up swimsuit in hand. I've got a headache. I just need a bit of rest. It's a chronic thing, been around for a long time. Don't worry about it. Well, you still need breakfast, don't you? I'll go bring you some. No, it's okay. You go ahead with your swimming. Sai nodded without saying anything more and left the room. Ran closed her eyes. The clues relating to the indoor case floated in her mind, interrupting her attempts to get rest. At this point, I feel like I've almost figured it out. I wonder how much progress the others have made. Probably none. We are the protagonist after all. For all I know, once I get up, I'll discover that Indo is already back on her feet, bouncing up and down, calling for Asakura-san as usual. Why does the idea of that kind of piss me off? I mean, it's not like I lose anything if I'm not the one to find the culprit, but still. It would save me the trouble even, but gah. Wave after wave of pain pounded her temples as Ran did her best to dispel her messy thoughts and fall asleep again. But before long, the sound of the door opening and a wafting fragrance that accompanied it brought Ran to reawaken. Is that porridge I smell? How traditional of you, Yoruna. Porridge. Ran flipped over and opened her eyes, intending on teasing Yoruna a bit, only to see that it was Anne bearing a dining platter. Oh, Miss Sakura. I'm just thinking, is it Sakura who killed us and maybe she actually knows that she killed us in another timeline? Ran jumped up from the bed, pulled on her jacket in a rush, and sat up straight, her eyes glowing. Am I interrupting your rest? Oh, no, not at all. Ran was surprised that Anne had come to visit her for once, but she was even more surprised to realize that she hadn't been able to identify Anne by the sound of her footsteps. Look at her shoes! Is she. Well, no, they're indoors. She wouldn't be wearing shoes, you know. This is Japan, they're not savages. Just a moment, I'll get right out of bed. No need to trouble yourself. Please just rest there. Anne put the plate of food down on the table, walked over to the bed, reaching up on her tiptoes to grab the pillow off of Sai's bunk. Ran found herself staring right at Anne's stomach. She really wanted to bury her face in it, but she resisted the urge. Anne layered the second pillow under Ran's back, stacking the two pillows together for Ran to comfortably rest on. All right, how's that? Great. Okay, I'm gonna feed you some porridge now. You think you can keep it down? Are you gonna feed me with your mouth? Pervert. Ran's words slammed into Anne like a sledgehammer. Stunned, she stared back at Ran without any idea how to respond. The two of them just silently stared at each other for a long, awkward while. I'm just pretty sure I'm gonna use a spoon. Maybe she was thinking of using her butt or something. Like, you know. Okay, yeah. Let's continue. Sorry, I just got too excited about seeing Miss Sakura come here to take care of me. Smiling again, Anne picked up the bowl of porridge and took a spoonful, blowing it on it a few times to cool it. She brought it to Ran's mouth. Open wide. Ran did and thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. Have I ever had to care for you like this before? Yeah, through the illness, though the illness was far worse that time. Not the kind that you got better from just by being fed porridge. Back then, I needed your help with practically anything I wanted to do. Is that so? Wait, don't tell me I actually used my mouth to feed you back then. That brought back countless wonderful memories for Ran, who nodded and then nodded several more times for emphasis. It's disgusting. Anne was taken aback, looking rather embarrassed. I can't imagine how that would have felt. Uh, no, I don't want to be too creepy. I want to lessen the creepiness. You'll remember once your memories come back to you. Anne nodded. But after I recovered, the me that exists now will disappear as well. No matter what, I won't be able to experience that sensation myself. Ran wanted to say that the current Anne Sakura was also very likable and that she enjoyed spending time with her as well. But what she wanted from her heart was still the version of her lover who'd regained all of her memories. Sorry. No need to apologize. I should be the one apologizing. I'm the one who made things awkward in the first place. Eat up before it gets cold. So I hadn't prepared that much porridge for Ran, and Anne soon quickly finished feeding all of it to Ran. To Ran, Anne's presence was far more therapeutic to her headache than the bowl of porridge itself was. So, are you feeling any better? Of course, with Miss Sakura around, and all illnesses are banished instantly. Anne brushed aside the hair on Ran's face and tapped her own forehead to Ran's. Only after a long time had passed did Anne pull back. She spoke as she helped neaten Ran's hair. I tried to imitate what Miho does to test your temperature, but I just realized that I don't actually know what a fever is supposed to feel like. It's okay, I'm completely fine now. Do you want to try getting out of bed or going for a stroll? Let's go to the observation deck. I was just thinking that I wanted to talk to you about the case, Miss Sakura. But yeah, why does a school have an observation deck like that? I think it looks more like a place inside a cruise ship or something. Anne helped Ran out of bed and even helped get the shoes that Ran had haphazardly thrown onto the bed last night out for her. Ran was a bit embarrassed about it. She quickly pulled on her socks and stuffed her feet into her shoes before leaving the room with Anne. When she pushed open the door, she saw Asakura opening the room's door as well, directly across the hallway. Ibuki-san, did you just get up? Didn't feel well today, so I laid in bed for a while. You? Without Tama, nobody was around to wake me up, so I overslept without noticing. Oh, how am I supposed to continue the conversation after that? Sai's already prepared breakfast. It's waiting in the kitchen. Asakura nodded and turned to head down the stairs. Seeing her drowsy silhouette leaving, Ran let out a breath. We should go as well, Miss Sakura. The two of them arrived at the observation deck and sat shoulder to shoulder with each other like last time. Ran took out a notebook and laid it on her thigh. Miss Sakura, before we start reasoning about Indo's case, I want to mention something first. Is it about the notebook? Yes, it's the most important thing I have. Of course, your importance to me is beyond the ability of the word important to describe, Miss Sakura. So you're the only one I'm telling about the notebook, Miss Sakura. Please don't let anybody else know what I'm about to say. And noted Ran didn't doubt her promise for a moment. She flipped to the recall page and pointed at the listings there. These are the places you went yesterday and the things you experienced there. Right, but not just that. I didn't write these words. The notebook wrote these words for me. Ran flipped the notes page where her squiggly haphazard writing was. Leave here as soon as possible to find Miss Sakura pitch black, kidnapped. I'm wearing a school uniform, not hungry either. Winter uniform, very cold, seems like this school's huge. The village and the land, the stars and moon are visible. That's what I wrote. So the notebook takes notes automatically for you about certain things? That's right, and by using the words written down by the book, I can project my consciousness to the points in time recorded by those lines of text and make different choices than the ones I made in reality. Thus, I can learn about more things than I could in real world. Anne didn't hesitate at all before responding. Oh, I see. That's how you figured out the answer so quickly with Hinata, right? And Hinata later mentioned to me that you didn't explain how exactly you caught her, because you didn't want to mention the notebook? That's right, as expected of you, Miss Sakura, you understood quickly. I'm surprised how quickly I understood too. Anne put her hand on a notebook, but the notebook didn't drain her blood. The pages of the notebook only responded to Ran's hands. I don't know why, but touching the notebook like this, it feels very familiar for some reason. Have I touched it before? I don't think so. I only acquired it after you and I were separated, Miss Sakura. For a long time it took care of me in your stead, Miss Sakura. It gave me a lot of help. So yeah, maybe it's the spirit of Sakura is in the book or something. Ran laid her own hand on the back of Anne's hand. Now that I've got both the notebook and Miss Sakura, I feel like I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I hope I can be of use. The Miss Sakura you're talking about isn't me at all. Anne retracted her hand and cursed herself for saying the wrong thing yet again. So, you found the answer to Tama's death through the notebook as well then? I still haven't, yet. I've only collected a handful of clues so far. I need to sort them out and then to use those clues to find the most questionable points of the incident to analyze. Okay, let's begin then. It's gonna be different culprits in different realities, isn't it? Good point. It might be. Okay, I guess just start with this. Why did the culprit move the corpse? How do you feel about this one, Miss Sakura? Is it worth considering? The scene of the crime is always important to any case. Carrying Thomas' body must have cost the culprit additional time and risked leaving additional evidence. But even then she decided to move the corpse anyways. It's worth thinking about. That's right. This case was very unique. The culprit required a specific environment to perform the murder, which makes the true scene of the crime even more important. Let's make note of this question. Okay, where is the murder weapon? I still think it's in the kitchen cupboard or something, or maybe the swimming pool behind the locked key. Well, I guess it could be just somewhere in the forest. Like, I think there's big forest around, so just throw it somewhere into the bushes. Ron, how's this question? I actually feel like we can ignore this one based on the circumstances. We just can't get a lot of clues from the weapon. Real police investigators sometimes focus on finding the murder implement because they want to identify suspects based on how the killer acquired the weapon, to determine based on the weapon's physical state whether the killer is a repeat offender, and to use forensic instruments to get clues out of the weapon. But in our situation, the murder weapon was just sitting in a tool shed and anybody could have had an opportunity to steal the keys from Asakura. Maybe, but it's still like, where is the weapon like after the murder? Like the cabinets and stuff. Surely, I don't know. Perhaps the place where the murderer hid the weapon could be a clue. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So it's most likely that I got murdered in the recall because the culprit was heading there to pick up the weapon. If we really have to find the location of the murder weapon, that would waste a lot of our time. We should only try something like that once we've used up all the clues we have on hand. Sure, I guess we can eliminate this avenue of inquiry for now. Okay. When was Tamindo's corpse moved? Inquiries regarding time all seem rather important, don't they? Like I'm thinking about what you said, ancient double hertz, about the different culprits in different realities. Like yeah, it could be like maybe there is somebody else with time travel powers or whatever, and So yeah, it could be, but I guess it's too early to try to really think about it. At least with my brain, I need to go much further to have any understanding if something like that is going on. So inquiries regarding time all seem rather important, don't they? That's right. I believe that the only thing in the world which can't be interfered with is time, and through recall, I have a broader view over time itself than anybody else. She's a Time Lord. So let's use all the clues we have regarding time to the greatest extent. Alright, I'll write this question down then. Why strangle Tamaindo? Well, I think it was to, knock her out or something. Why kill with such strange technique? I guess that's a bigger question for now. It feels like this is a really important question. Kinda sure indeed. Strange is a word that frequently accompanies an investigation. People often say, this person died in a very strange way, so we should definitely start by trying to figure out why the culprit would do such a thing. But actual investigations don't focus on the method itself, but rather on what the culprit had to do to achieve the method. Sounds a bit circular. If we focus entirely on the method, it's too easy for us to get distracted with the killer's motives, like revenge or theatricality or whatnot. Using Indo as an example when we are focusing on what the killer had to be capable of doing to achieve. This method, we start asking, when did the killer get the weapon? How tall did the culprit have to be able to make those marks on the tree, etc. Specifically focusing on the how is more meaningful and direct than the why. So that's why I think this question doesn't demand our attention. Okay. Then how about the other questions you brought up just now? Those are all supporting details for the construction of this theory. They are all questions that we'll have to answer on the way to solving the fundamental questions here. So, to put it simply, why the culprit would use such a strange method as this isn't the fundamental question at all. Does the culprit have an accomplice? Now there's a bit of a conundrum. It's not exactly a useless inquiry, but before solving the other problems, it's hard to judge this one at all. Let's write it down first then and reconsider it at last. Okay, so why strangle Tamaindo? It's a very interesting question. I feel like it pulls on quite a few of the clues. That's right, of course. There's the simple answer that strangling Indo was just to make it easier for the killer to twist her head, but the killer could have just chosen a simpler method and saved themselves effort. Instead, they went and took lots of additional actions and left behind many clues. So the culprit was foolish? It doesn't matter either way. What the culprit was thinking is their own business. We just need to deduce based on the things we know actually happened. The problem is worth considering. Okay. This is it. Let's begin the reasoning. Alright, that's all the questions. Is that enough, Miss Sakura? I think so. Then next up we'll have to solve these questions in logical order. Correct. First up, why did the murderer move the body? I'm gonna save if I fuck it up or something. This one. So why did they move the body? They hoped the body would be discovered more quickly. The Conceal the time of death. Conceal the method of crime. 3. Is that your... Conceal the method of crime. But I think it's possible. At least it wasn't so difficult to find. Maybe the time of death. Okay, I'll take your suggestion since I don't really have any like a clear idea what's the correct option. That's right. Ah, you were right. One would be pretty crazy. That's right. We mentioned the strangeness of this method over and over already. It requires so much preparation, has so many limitations, and leaves behind so many clues, which would need to be disposed of afterwards. In a situation like this, there would be an abundance of clues at the original scene of the crime. The tree alone gave us enough information to connect the configuration of the ropes to the height of the killer, allowing us to reduce the range of possible suspects. Yes, the culprit didn't want people to discover her exact methodology easily. In fact, I was only able to deduce her method after noticing many clues from the corpse, which led us to the original scene of the crime. Next up is, why did they strangle Indo unconscious? What's wrong? This question's a bit complicated. There seem to be multiple workable answers here. What does that mean? To be more precise about it, the culprit's choice to strangle Indo seems like it could achieve multiple goals. I'm not sure a simple answer can encapsulate all of these goals. I see, so we should first figure out all the potential benefits that strangling Tama could have had for the culprit, and then reanalyze those to create a clear chain of logic, right? Correct, Miss Sakura, you've summed up things accurately as expected. Let's begin then. So, prevent Tama from struggling during the murder, at least that's a possibility. Culprit tried to kill Tama via strangulation but failed. Doubtful. The culprit needed time to prepare the murder weapon. Possibly. The culprit was trying to frame someone strong enough to choke Tama out. Maybe. The culprit needed to create a false alibi for themselves. Maybe this. Maybe I'll try one. Maybe, yeah, maybe. What I'm thinking is number 5. Yeah, 1 and 5 are my first guesses. Let's try this first. The culprit could have killed Indu immediately after choking her out, but the process would have taken some time. There'd be a large amount of blood on the culprit that would have been difficult to clean. Plus, she needed time to get her murder implement and to clean up the bloodied clothes afterwards, not to mention the risk of being witnessed. So after the culprit choked Tama out, appearing before the rest of us before going to kill Tama properly would be a very sensible choice. And that's exactly what she did, and she expanded the pool of potential suspects in the process. A very effective act. Why did the culprit want to strangle into unconsciousness? To prevent... I think now number 1, to prevent Tama from struggling during the murder. This was the most obvious reason, isn't it? Though the culprit wouldn't have used so much effort just for that. After tying up Indo, the ropes themselves would have been enough to restrain her and allow the culprit to twist her head around. But if Indo were awake in that state, she'd surely be struggling and moving her head this way and that, making it hard for the culprit to operate. Speaking of struggling, it's possible that Tama woke up in the middle of the act, isn't it? Very possible, though it'd have been too late by then. Why did the culprit want to strangle Indo? Okay, well, she needed time to prepare the murder weapon, I guess. If you look at the murder weapon and the method together, the culprit must have planned this out long in advance, but it's not like the culprit could run around all the time carrying a giant wrench after all. It was brought up while we were investigating Indo's corpse as well, that everyone knows what the pipe wrench is for after all. That's why I think the culprit only decided that it was her time to act, after she saw me and Indo split up. And then the culprit strangled Indo until she fainted and hid her somewhere before going to find the murder weapon. Maybe she was, stashed away at the swimming pool lockers because the door was stuck. So maybe she was, unconscious there for a while before getting killed. So you're saying that strangling Tama was to buy time for the culprit? That's right. This also implies that the culprit probably strangled Indu with her own bare hands. She was taking advantage of a spontaneous opportunity and didn't immediately have something like rope on her. So it had to be somebody with strong hands. Alright, these are the benefits that strangling Indo could have had for the culprit. I hadn't thought of it would turn out to be such a rational decision. Let's continue then. When did the culprit move the corpse? Wait, because there was some water on the shoes of Tama's shoes. There was some like water splatter, but they weren't muddy. So maybe it's after it rained, or I wouldn't know. Yeah, like I guess if she's tied to a tree and it's raining, her shoes might get a little bit wet, but they wouldn't get muddy. So maybe it's after it rained. And also there weren't actually at the scene of the like where the body was discovered in the gym, there were no footprints there before everybody got there. Like it was clean at first, but of course it might just mean that the killer took off her dirty shoes, so that and just walk with barefoot or something. So I guess that's not really. So I don't know. Maybe it's after it rained. There's no doubt about it. The fact that Indo's body was wet from the rain while the undersides of her boots remained clean indicates that Indo was already dead when she got soaked by the rain. She could no longer walk on her own at that point. Did the culprit make an oversight? Everyone knows how frequently it's been raining recently. If she'd prepared rain protection or if she'd smothered mud on Tama's shoes, she could have really confused us. It wouldn't have made a big difference either way, because the important thing isn't if Indo was alive while she was getting rained on, it was whether she was even outside at all while it was raining. Indo had an umbrella with her after all. Logically speaking, you wouldn't expect her to get so completely drenched. It's very strange that Indo was outside but not using her umbrella while it was raining. Yeah, I guess. But the killer's lack of preparation against inclement weather is indeed strange. This suggests that it's possible that she didn't begin committing the murder during the rain, but rather that it suddenly began to rain during the process of the murder. I guess that's possible. Right, and the rain must have started while she was killing Tama. By the time the culprit moved Tama's body, the rain had already been falling for some time. Otherwise, if the rain had started while the corpse was being moved, the culprit could have just covered Tama with a tarp. Yeah, if she'd prepared a tarp beforehand and wrapped it on Indo before she began, whether it rained or not, the bloodstains wouldn't have looked the way they look now. Well, based on the culprit's method, she couldn't have covered Tama's head with the tarp as well, since if she did that, the weapon would have jostled the tarp off when Tama's head was rotated to face all the way upwards anyway. Once the rain got on Tama's hair, you wouldn't be able to hide it anymore. Yep, so in conclusion, the culprit was the person who was still outside when it began raining. And once we've excluded all the other possibilities, that leaves only her. So, wait, is that Yoruno or Asakura? I'm not quite sure. Finally, whether or not an accomplice exists is no longer a meaningful question. We've already figured out the identity of the culprit, and the only person who could have possibly been her accomplice I've already eliminated as a possibility through recall. Are you really going to be able to convince the murderer using evidence you got through a recall, though? That time you revived me, it was Miho who helped you avoid disaster at the end, wasn't it? This time it'll be different. The culprit won't actively bring up the idea of an accomplice on their own. If she did, she'd be implicating herself as the culprit. So we solved all the murders up to this point then. Yeah, but if the culprit is her, then I don't want the others to know yet. I want to have a talk with her alone. That's dangerous though. What if she kills you? It's fine. I'll just tell her that Miss Sakura also knows who the culprit is. I still feel like we should go see her together, shouldn't we? Normally I'd be ecstatic to go anywhere together with Miss Sakura, of course, but this time compared to the how, I'm really more curious about the culprit's why. Maybe it'll even help me restore some of my memories. I still don't want Miss Sakura to know about that yet. If we go together and we both get killed, then we're all going to be in real trouble. Yeah, because I'm still wondering, like, what's the motive for the killer to hide their murder, like, you know. Except, I guess the sense of accomplishment. Like, I guess, you know, if you get away with murder, it feels good. Or also, so I've heard. So, but like, you know, why wouldn't they at some point just reveal their murder if nobody catches them, and, you know, to resurrect the person? After all, she did kill me in a recall. Um, Alright then, be careful, okay? Don't worry, Miss Sakura, I told you that I'd never leave you ever again. So is it Takei, the Miho? Ran stood at the side of the iron bed frame, looking at Tama's corpse. The body bag that she'd been held in had long since been disposed of, and now Tama was wearing a hospital gown that fit her well. There has to be a twist. Yeah, probably. Well, there was a twist. Her neck. uh, Looks like everyone's got clothes tailored exactly to their own fit. Then Asakura pushed open the door and entered the morgue. She walked right past Ran and leaned onto the wall. So it is Asakura all along, yeah, because it was, I guess, well, maybe the twist is that she really, I don't know, she loves Tama too much, so that's why she, I don't know, wanted to kill her painfully because it, I don't know, torments her. I don't know why. Ibuki-san calling me to come here alone. I suppose you're expecting me to carry a conversation with Tama all on my own. I don't suppose you're whatever. I know who the culprit is, and yet you only called me here. Ran looked at her and nodded. So you think I'm the culprit then? I'd rather not say yet. I'm afraid that Indo will wake up if I do, and there's some things I don't want her to hear. The corners of Asakura's eyes drooped. Her sharp gaze made Ran worried that Asakura might actually decide to kill her. How kind of you, though I don't particularly want her to revive either. By the way, just so you know, Miss Sakura also knows the identity of the culprit. Ah ha ha, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to you. Pretty sure you caved in my skull in that recall, but sure, whatever you say. Well, no point in wasting more time. I'm going to begin describing the murderous process now. First off, the complexity of this method means that it was clearly a premeditated murder. The nature of the murder meant that the culprit was waiting for one specific circumstance when Tama Indo was alone. Well, that's usually in murders in a place like this, I think, you know. I don't think you're gonna have a sniper rifle. You're gonna be hiding on the grassy knoll and shoot. Like, that would be fun, you know. All the 7 other girls, they're having a picnic, and one girl is missing, and then one of the picnickers gets sniped from the grassy knoll. I wonder who the killer was. Anyways, yesterday after Indo separated from me, she sent the culprit a text message saying that she was going to visit the culprits. Come on, you can stop with the culprit thing. You're clearly gunning for me. I haven't said any such thing yet. After the culprit received the text, she thought this was a valuable opportunity, so she met up with Indo at the power room. After meeting Indo, the culprit strangled her until she fainted. If the culprit just needed time to get the murder weapon, she could have made preparations before Indo arrived. since based on Indo's personality, she wouldn't leave the site until she'd met up with the culprit. But the culprit still needed to use Indo to generate an alibi for herself. So in order to prevent Indo from contacting the other students, and just in case she managed to escape somehow, the killer locked Indo in the spare parts closet inside the generator room and locked it. Afterwards, to generate an alibi and to obscure the exact time when Indo was ambushed, the culprit went to the pool to find Joruna. Then, using the excuse that she needed someone to help her put the generator's lid back on, she brought Joruna back to the generator room with her. How careless of this supposed culprit. What if Tama had woken up and started making a ruckus in the spare parts closet? Wouldn't Joruna have overheard? Were you really worried about that, Asakura? I'll be continuing now. With Yoruna's help, the two replaced the lid of the generator. After that, the culprit cleaned up her tools and headed to the dorms with Yoruna to meet the other students. Then she pretended that she wanted to go find Indo and headed to the tool room to get the murder weapon and the ropes. Then she returned to the generator room, picked up the delirious Indo and headed to the nearby grove of trees. There she used the ropes to tie Indo to a tree she'd scouted out in advance. The following is how she tied the ropes, more or less. After that, the killer wrapped herself in a tarp she'd prepared to prevent any blood from getting on her uniform. Clamping Indo's head with the pipe wrench, she rotated it from the top to bottom. Once the wrench's angle was parallel with its starting position, she walked to the other side and began turning it from bottom to top. Okay, so it's like this. Twist. How come you aren't drawing this part? Because I don't want to draw it, and it's just the two of us. Between the two of us, we both know how it went down. How unprofessional. Heavy rain suddenly started falling while the culprit was still working. The culprit followed her plan and untied Indo from the tree and took her to the gymnasium to conceal the original scene of the crime. After reaching the side entrance of the gym, the killer took off her muddy shoes, entered the gym and placed Indo on the stage. Then she took the tarp off herself, flipped it to the other side and used it to clean any remaining traces of the inside the gym away. How do you know that such a tarp exists? I've been inside the generator room closet. There was a pile of tarps inside there. There was dust all over and around the tarps everywhere, except for the tarp on top of the pile, which was completely clean. And that let me know that the topmost tarp was probably taken by the culprit. Furthermore, the walls and the floor were cleaner than the other areas of the room. I suppose that after placing Indo in the room, the pattern of dust in the room had changed strangely, so the culprit cleaned it up. I guess, yeah. So you are a master detective. After placing the corpse and cleaning up the evidence, the culprit used her phone to contact Yoruno to tell her that Indo had disappeared. That's how the murder was carried out, more or less. So let me guess, the premises upon which you based your reasoning are the presumed height of the culprit and the suspects who were still outside while it was raining. What a sloppy job for the culprit. Well, you guessed right, the culprit was No, wait, hold on. As long as I don't identify the culprit, even if the culprit admits it, Indo won't come back to life, will she? Asakura raised one eyebrow. She clearly hadn't expected Ran to say anything like that. Or say something like that. No, she won't, because it will technically count as you not actually knowing exactly who the suspect who fit your height criteria and who was outside the rain was. That's good then. Even if we revived Indo now, it wouldn't solve the problem. What are you trying to say? Asakura stood up straight, even though there was some distance between the two of them. Ran still felt a sense of pressure. I thought that the killer had a close relationship with Indo. So what if the culprit was close with her? Do you think that the culprit would have refrained? Isn't it missing an E? Refrained from doing such a thing to Tama just because they were close. On the contrary, don't you think that the culprit would actually exploit it to disguise her own identity? I guess, or yeah, I guess, if I murdered one of my friends, I'd be, more sadistic than if I was murdering a stranger, especially if it was in a game, because I've done that in, board games and stuff, or role-playing games. Of course, not in real life. I haven't been caught yet, at least. The method was chosen entirely out of the hopes that it would make the investigation more difficult to solve. Really. Asakura was speaking very quickly all of a sudden. Ran didn't even need to analyze her speech to tell she was stressed. I'd have liked to believe that too. Asakura clenched her fists tightly, but only for a moment before she let go, trying to keep herself as calm as possible. But the truth is that the culprit did this out of hatred. She chose this method because she wanted Indo to suffer. From my perspective, they only did it for the sake of the case itself. No matter who the victim was, the culprit would have done the same thing. Ran set her hand on the iron bed frame and took a step forward. After Indo learned who the culprit was, she'd surely cooperate with the culprit as best as she could to ensure that her plan could go smoothly, right? And before all this, I also believed that were the culprit in the same situation as Indo, she'd also choose to cooperate with Indo. But the amount of suffering that the culprit's plan would inflict on Indo was just too horrifying. The culprit was someone very important to Indo, who could even say that the culprit was the meaning of her life, and she had no doubt about this fact and was happy to live this way. So the culprit was to Indo as Miss Sakura is to me. Thus, I'm astonished that the culprit would choose to do such a thing to Indo. So, according to you, whenever anybody decides to commit a murder and then cut the corpse up into parts afterwards, that's all because they hate their classmates. Couldn't the culprit have just impartially decided to snap Thomas' neck? Is that so impossible? Sure, it's possible, but Asakura, is that actually what you were thinking? Don't you think that the culprit might need trying to use the same cruel method to kill Indo, even after she revives? Even if the designated victim wasn't Indo, don't you think that the culprit would keep finding excuses to kill her anyways? using the fact that she witnessed the crime to justify it. Asakura narrowed her eyes and furrowed her brows. She stuck her hands into her jacket pockets. I don't see why we are discussing such a pointless topic. This is all intuition. If you like deduction so much, why don't you show me some proof that I hate Tama and force a confession out of me then? This is about interpersonal emotions, not something that can be explained entirely through logic, but... Ran looked down at the white cloth covering Tamaindo and then looked back at Makoto Asakura. Yoruno once said that you once decided to commit suicide after you drew both the culprit and victim cards. Makoto Asakura's hands had balled themselves up into fists in her pockets. This time she didn't loosen them. And it was Indo who reasoned out your process of committing suicide and it revived you. So maybe she actually wants to stay dead or something. I'm guessing she completely reasonably decided to blame herself for your choice to commit suicide. Even though you'd given up your life under the condition that you could be revived. But Indo thought that if she'd given you enough satisfaction that you would have chosen to kill one of the other classmates rather than yourself. And after that, her concern for you intensified and redoubled in magnitude. And because of this, you grew tired of Indo, even began to hate her. Asakura was suddenly standing over Ran, looming over Ran. Ran hadn't even noticed when she'd gotten so close. Asakura looked down, staring at Ran. All of this, you intuited as well? Ran reached out and grabbed Asakura by her shirt collar. And I intuited right, didn't I? What does Tamaindo mean to you? Asakura grabbed Ran's arm by the wrist and moved it away from her shirt collar. Nothing, that's what. A total nuisance. Tamaindo forces me to keep on living. I couldn't find a reason to keep existing in this world, so I chose to leave, but she dragged me back against my will anyways. And now I have to endure the pain of continued existence and be forced to accept the way she looks at me so enthusiastically so. So I turned her head around so she would stop looking at me like that. I guess there's some logic there. So you're blaming all of this on... Suddenly an insensate delirium came over Ran. It was a feeling she'd experienced once before. What, now? My memories of Asakura are about to return, but what even was the trigger word, Asakura? Ran's body swayed and she almost collapsed to the ground. Asakura, after a moment of hesitation, reached out and supported her. Was it suicide, Asakura? Did you... Ran grabbed tightly to Makoto's arm. The storms of pain roiling through her mind told her that her guess was indeed correct. So, Asakura, you're already... so she committed suicide in the real world or something? Her thoughts cut off there. Everything before Ran began to twist and distort before finally fading out into infinite darkness. On January 17th, 2020, at 6:18 in the afternoon, a female third-year student from Tokyo Chogakukan Senior High School, standing in the middle of Shibuya Crossing, used a 20-centimeter long steel grocery knife to commit suicide by opening her own carotid artery. A very detailed description. At the time, the number of people who were crossing the street was in excess of 3,000 people. Countless cell phone cameras recorded the entire process of the girl's slow death from the exsanguination. Ultimately, when the paramedic personnel were finally able to reach the scene, the student had already perished. The recordings were shared all over the internet. Rumors about the deceased became a hot topic for a time, and the personal details of the deceased, which were meant to be kept secret, became publicly available information. Between the over-analysis of the media, the clickbait platforms which thrived on blood and spectacle, and the conversations on the internet forums from idle bystanders, everyone speculated about her reasons for committing suicide. And to those who knew her, her family, her classmates, her friends, Makoto Asakura was more or less a perfect person. It was said that the motive of the suicidal was that the life was nothing but despair and self-torture. But Makoto Asakura's life, as seen through others' eyes, could be described as nothing short of an idyllic existence. Everyone thought that Makoto Asakura's life was one worthy of continuation, and yet she had actively chosen to abandon it. The way that Makoto Asakura's values differed so much from the norm caused Ran Ibuki to perceive that the two of them shared a similar kind of isolation. And Makoto Asakura herself she'd been contemplating the decision to commit suicide for a quite long time. She struggled quite hard to find a reason not to die. She asked others what the purpose of living was. Most of the answers she received were some variation of consumerist hedonism, or maybe setting some kind of lofty life goal for herself. But she was unable to feel any meaning in any of them. She was lacking in any sort of religious or spiritual faith, and neither relied on nor was relied on by anyone. Living for the sake of her family or her friends wasn't enough to justify her continuation. Makoto Asakura never expressed what she was really thinking deep down. There was no meaning in letting others know about her inner nihilism. Similarly, there was no meaning in pointing out the pointlessness of the actions of others either. I wouldn't call it nihilism if she killed herself for that, because if you're really a nihilist, you don't really care if you die, because she clearly cared about her meaninglessness and suffering, so it wasn't true nihilism. Finally, on that day, Makoto Asakura had been sent by her family to pick up a custom-made knife by some relatives in Shibuya, and while traveling through the Shibuya crossing, she happened to look up and see on the giant LED screens or LED screens a live stream of some famous chef making sashimi. I just realized, wasn't both murders so far, they were committed by the roommate of the victim, right? Koizumi and Sakura, and now this murder. When the camera fixed itself upon the fish's head, the giant eye of the fish, blindly and unfocusedly staring out into space, had an unexpectedly provocative effect on Asakura's heart, and so she took out the knife and cut her own neck. I think heart maybe should be mind, because in Japanese it means more like kokoro is more like mind, but whatever. Ran felt like she and Asakura were traveling, and also probably in Chinese. Ran felt like she and Asakura were traveling the same road. Asakura had simply reached the end sooner than Ran. Because of this, Ran decided to assume that the incompatibility between her values and that of the people around her was just an unchangeable constant, and redoubled her determination to sink deeper into Anne's embrace. And Sakura's existence was the source of Ran's certainty that Ran Ibuki would never take the same road as Makoto Asakura. I've updated the profile of Akoto Masakura, Makoto Asakura. Ran stared with wide eyes as she recovered from her delirium. She grasped the side of the iron bed and straightened herself shakily. Asakura watched her from the side without speaking. Just like the situation with Koizumi sensei, I already knew about Asakura, and she's even already died. But she's not only just perfectly alive here, I even saw a lot of things in those memories that were things that only Asakura herself ought to know. Well, maybe everybody here is dead. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things that, Asakura killed herself. Maybe the other people died in the flood or whatever, rain stuff, or who knows what's going on, that, alien invasion from another dimension or whatever's going on. Just who is it that's showing me these things? And with Asakura herself being here, those memories must be the truth, right? Just had a bit of a headache. Everything's fine now. Please continue speaking. I don't have anything more to say. I think you should give yourself and Indo a chance. She can give you the meaning you want. Is there even a point? Both of them have long since died already, haven't they? Yeah. You say you hate the way she looks at you, but Indo's gaze can't be the same as that of a fish, right? What am I even doing? There's no way that Asakura's destiny of suicide can be changed, just like how it doesn't matter how much resolve Koizumi sensei builds up for herself. What? A fish? What fish? Also, the more positive things you say about Tama-Indo, the less it makes me ever want to see her again. She has everything that I wish I had. Tama-Indo wallows in excitement and novelty every single day. She enjoys the pleasure of being alive every single day, and she even has the temerity to try to share these things with me. She's even somehow gotten herself a meaning of life off of me. I'm just thinking, while reading that, what if, somebody just killed everybody else here? Like, well, I guess it would be boring if she was the only one alive, but could the others be revived at all? Asakura spoke faster and faster, and her breathing became more and more rapid. Even after I killed myself, so I could escape her torment, she still brought me back to life. She just wants to share the things that make her happy, to make you happy as well, doesn't she? I suppose there was a certain period where I was contemplating how to make Tama-Indo die as painfully as possible. In that sense, I suppose I found a life goal for a while. I'm sort of starting to like this character. Look, I know how all of you perceive Tama-Indo, but in mine, every single move and action she makes is filled with nothing but absolute malevolence towards me. Have you tried telling her these things? Do you think Tama would understand my feelings? That's not the point. Look, if you are sick of breathing and you want to take a hike, I'm not going to stop you, but I'm not just going to let you drag Indo down with you. I wonder, like, now that she sort of admitted the murder, maybe Tama is waking up and now she hears everything they're saying. Asakura didn't answer Ran. Now that you've vented yourself on Indo, once she comes back, have a proper conversation with her, alright, at least apologize to her. I'm sure she'll take your frustrations seriously. And what would the point be, even if she does take them seriously? The two of them are already dead. There's no point in their relationship, no matter how much it improves. Asakura laid her hands on the edge of the steel frame of the bed and looked at Tama Indo's corpse. It was the first time she had looked directly at Tama since Ran had called her to the morgue. I doubt it'll go the way you want it to. You know what Tama. You know what Tama's going to say to me as soon as she wakes up. What? Asakura walked towards the door of the morgue and pushed it open. Why don't you find out in my stead? Alright then, I claim that you are the killer of Tama Indo. I claim that the killer of Tama Indo was Makoto Asakura. I confess to being the culprit. Your reasoning was accurate. After finishing that sentence, Makoto Asakura closed the door and left the morgue. The moment the sound of the door was slamming shut faded away and the iron bed began shaking and clanking, Ran turned to see that Tama's neck was gradually returning to its correct angle as the damage to it quickly repaired itself. It was like watching the steel cables of a suspension bridge rearrange themselves in parallel, though the speed of their regeneration didn't seem as quick as with Anne's. Ran could see the other organs slowly regenerating as well behind the muscles. Ah! Suddenly Tama opened her eyes, even though the wounds on her neck were far from being fully repaired. Her consciousness had been restored before her wounds had. Even while the regeneration was still underway, tears flowed from Tama's eyes. She opened her mouth and tried to speak, but couldn't. Her vocal cords were still in the process of regrowing themselves. Ran quickly dashed to her side, and Tama reached out to grab onto Ran, but the attempted movement was too much for her, and she fell off the bed to the floor instead. Ran hugged her, and Tama clung tightly to Ran's back as her neck continued regenerating. It was then that her vocal cords finally returned to normal. Tama-induced screams filled the entire morgue, giving a hint of the pain she'd suffered before she died, and her wounds, which were now exposed to the air after her awakening, brought her a new flavor of suffering unlike anything she'd ever experienced before. I sort of like it. Maybe I'm twisted, but it's interesting. Asakura had better properly apologize to Indo later. Ran could hear the sound of flesh regrowing right next to her ears. Tama finally stopped screaming and began to take deep, heaving breaths. Her grasp on Ran's back relaxed slightly, but she still apparently had no intentions of letting go. Indo, it's okay, you can hold on to me. Tama was more than willing to accept Ran's invitation, and her fingers clutched at Ran with redoubled force. After a long, long time, the morgue finally fell silent, leaving only Tama's quiet breathing. Does it still hurt? Tama shook her head, releasing her grip on Ran and leaning back slightly. Ran didn't immediately let her go and continued to hold Tama in her lap. It's much better. Thank you, Ibuki-san. Tama spoke Tama into it with pale white lips. Where's Asakura-san? You pointed her out as the culprit here, didn't you? She left. Oh, she must be mad at me. I must go and apologize to her quickly. Okay. Tama immediately began struggling in Ran's lap, trying to stand up, but Ran pushed her right back down. The hell do you mean apologize? The way Asakura treated she should be the one apologizing to you. Absolutely not. Asakura-san can do anything she likes to me. But when she was twisting my head, I'm sure it must have made an unsightly expression and even gotten my blood on Asakura-san's face. Tama was starting to cry again. She hadn't even seemed this tense when her wounds were regenerating. Asakura-san must be feeling quite unwell. I have to go and apologize quickly to her. Oh, absolutely not. Don't you dare apologize to her. But No wonder Asakura-san doesn't want to see Indo's face. If Indo showed up and immediately started apologizing to Asakura, I bet she'd start coughing up blood from sheer infuriation. Look, if you apologize, you're just going to make Asakura miserable. What you need to do right now is go up to her, point your finger at her face, start screaming at her. How could you do something like that to me? Something like that. Then maybe, and then maybe ignore her for a few days. That'll probably cheer Asakura up. Why? I don't get it. Just take my word for it. Asakura told me that what was she that was what she wanted while you were dead. She wanted you to do those things. Yeah, exactly. Like it makes sense. Like I think the psychology in this game actually it makes sense when you think about it. Like the murder itself as a mystery, it wasn't so great because I think Asakura was the logical culprit since the beginning. But like I guess the psychological aspect makes the murder still interesting. Yeah. Tama seemed somewhat confused. She blinked her huge eyes and her lips finally began to regain color. Did Asakura-san really say that? Ran nodded her head with as much confidence as she could. Very well, I understand. Since it's something that Asakura-san told me to do, then I'll do as she says. Nama picked herself off the ground and dusted off her hospital gown. And if after I say that, Asakura-san gets mad at me, then I shouldn't say just what I'll do to you, Ibuki-san. I shouldn't say just what I'll do to you, Ibuki-san. Nope, nope, nope. Indo, you're scaring me. Trust me, you don't think Asakura would be such a petty person, right? The problem's not with Asakura-san, but with me, though. Uh, do I really have the right to do something like scream at Asakura-san? It's because you're like this that Asakura hopes that you can change yourself. Surely you understand as well. Having an inferiority complex isn't a good thing. Tama jumped in shock at Ran's word. It's been obvious to everybody after all, even if Tama had thought she'd been doing a good job of hiding it. Okay, I understand. I'll try then. We have updated profile of Makoto Asakura. Ran sat on the floor, sighed in relief, feeling incredibly exhausted. That was exhausting. Saying that all that chicken soup for the soul inspirational cliche stuff. Ugh. Even though I just did my best to copy how Miss Sakura used to speak when she was trying to comfort me, it's just not my style and I never want to have to say anything like that ever again. Yeah. At least the case itself was decently fun. Made me think a bit. I feel pretty accomplished for having solved it. Ron stood up as she mentally reviewed the details of the case one last time. At the same time, the door to the morgue creaked open. It's over? Miss Sakura, what are you doing here? Well, I was really worried about you, so I've been waiting outside the whole time. Miss Sakura. I love you so much, Miss Sakura. So you heard everything I said to Asakura then? Yes, you do have a way with words, Ran. I was just trying to imagine what the past you would have said in the same situation. Is that so? That really is quite different from what I'd have said then. But Makoto and Tama's relationship has turned out to be more complex than meets the eye. I think your choice was correct. Maybe it'll help the two of them out. The image of Asakura's suicide flashed before Ran's eyes again. She found herself sinking into uncertainty again. Was there really any meaning in these things she was doing? You know what? Looking at Anne, Rand suddenly felt that she had no need for uncertainty anymore. All she needed to do was to do what she did before, to tell Ansakura whenever she was faced with any kind of problem. She'd surely be able to find a solution to anything. Miss Sakura, there's something I want to tell you. Um, Maybe I'll end the stream here. Like, I think that the story is actually quite interesting. Like, in sense of like the murder investigation, well, mechanically it's still quite simple. It's basically just reading a book. There aren't many options you can do or anything, and there are some uh, leaps in logic or some pertinent details that are sometimes ignored and stuff, but it's decent. But it is interesting. It's just like my main criticism is there's a bit too much of chit chat and bada bada ba. I want to get more to the murderers and the mysteries. That's what I really like. Like, of course, some degree of human relations is important to make the flesh out the characters and stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna end the stream here and see you tomorrow, I hope. I've been Adventure Argonaut and I thank you for watching and all that. Bye bye. Wait, no, I'm trying to tab out. Okay, bye bye.